Welcome back to Financial Fortitude, the podcast that helps high earners, families, and business owners live well today and plan wisely for tomorrow. I'm your host, Michael Acosta, joined by my co-host, Brady Hemmerly.
Today we're diving into a topic that blends lifestyle with leverage, how to turn everyday spending into unforgettable experiences. From cashback to first class, we're exploring how to maximize reward points and travel perks through strategic use of credit cards.
Joining us today is a true specialist in this space, Colin Stroud, founder of GoSomewhere.world. Colin helps business owners and travelers unlock the hidden power of points, miles, and loyalty programs to travel smarter, spend efficiently, and live richly. Let's unpack how to make your money go further without spending a dollar more. Welcome to Financial Fortitude, a podcast for high earners, families, and business owners. We're your hosts, Michael Acosta
and Brady Hemmerly. Each week we bring purpose-driven financial guidance to you so you can be assured you're on the right path. If you're looking to become an extraordinary wealth builder, let's dive in.
Now, Brady, I'm super excited about today's conversation because we're having this awesome guest, Colin Stroud, who is the founder and principal strategist behind GoSomewhere.world, where he empowers high-spending business owners and discerning travelers to unlock the hidden value in credit card reward points and travel loyalty programs. This is something that I know for me comes up frequently with clients where the front burner question is really just, hey, which credit card do you recommend? Should I only have one credit card? I sometimes feel like I'm being spread because I might have 8 different credit cards, which in my mind is just way too many. I think there's a more efficient way of doing things. So again, very excited to have Colin on, but also just to hear the dialogue.
And we were joking a little bit before this that I think you and I, Michael, even selfishly, are going to pick up some knowledge and information that we can use not only in the world with our clients, but in the world with ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
Colin, we're going to open the floor up to you a little bit. Can you tell us just a bit more about who you are, what your business looks like, and who generally you're helping? And then we'll dive into a more organic conversation.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. So I'm obviously founder of Go Somewhere here, and I live in Toledo, Ohio. Actually just moved like 2 days ago. So as of now, I live it, which feels weird to say, live in Toledo, Ohio. And I started this business basically because I realized people were struggling to figure all this stuff out. Like the whole rewards thing was so confusing. I just started posting on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden people started wanting to talk to me on the phone, and there was interest. And I started, maybe I could charge some money to help people. And that basically started what is basically a consulting business where I sit down with people. So today, fast forward, it's been about 2 years of pushing on this and about a year of full time doing this. I'm mostly working with business owners on a day-to-day basis. So typically high spending business owners, which there's no strict definition of that, but I usually say is around $20,000 a month or more on credit cards. So that may have some people like dropping their jaw on the ground that people do that. But it's funny because once you just drive down the street, you'll see any business, you'll see, that the little dentist office you drive past on your way to work, they probably spend $30,000 a month on dental supplies. And
Right.
You can often put that on a credit card with no fee. So once you realize how much money these businesses are spending, it's kind of wild. And then you realize that most of these people don't have a plan. No, why? Because it's not the most important thing. I'm 100% aware of that. That's who I focus on today. But even if that's not you listening, or that's not even you too, Michael and Brady, like I think what I teach to these business owners can be applied to anyone. It's just really easy for the really high spending business owners, which is why I choose to focus my time on them. But anyone can do this. And I'm a good example. I am not a high spending business owner. The cost to run my business is quite low. So I'm able to make a lot of different things work for myself and my family personally without spending $100,000 on medical supplies. So that's what I do now. And I've got 2 little girls and I'm married, and we stay very busy doing that. And I'm busy building this business. So that's a little bit about me.
So I guess the first question I have, was this a hobby that eventually turned into a business venture, or were you in some capacity this space beforehand and it only made sense to move into a consulting type of realm?
I was doing just a totally different job. I was actually working for a nonprofit doing fundraising. And so that's what I was doing. And that was life, and it was going fine. And this is a hobby, like many hundreds of thousands of people have this hobby of playing the credit card points game a little bit. And I just realized, I feel like I know a lot more than the average person I talk to about this. And so I was maybe a little bit bored in my job, wanting a little bit more for myself. And I started posting on LinkedIn about it. And people, the market basically told me to start this business, I would say, because there was so much interest in my posts. It totally shocked me. I thought it would just, get like 4 likes, but it didn't. They were going really big. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe this hobby, because it was a hobby, could become a business. And it started really, really slow, but it just built up over time and finally made sense to go full time into it, which is still crazy to me. That's true, but it's been a year of that now.
I love that you brought up the fact that what you do is applicable for obviously the ideal client or prospective individual, which is a business owner, someone who's spending $20,000 plus per month, right? But it's still applicable to just the average individual, professional, household, family. I would say for the services that we provide, it's the same thing. Conceptually, things can be transferred for lower spending or lower asset households versus higher asset value households or spending households. Now, nationally, there is a consumer debt problem. And so because of that, people have mixed feelings when it comes to leveraging credit cards. I'm a big believer in credit card. I am all for spending someone else's money if it's done with prudence and I'm not being charged obscene interest for it, right? In order to keep more capital in my pocket that I can leverage and potentially out-earn the interest that would be due, if plausible. But in this scenario, there's obviously a behavioral or psychological mindset behind, one, should I even have a credit card because my relatives or parents or whoever has told me that they're the devil, right? They're the worst thing in the world, especially if you get caught sideways with them, which I can understand. But in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, there is greater good that can come out of leveraging a credit card longer term for you as a business owner, you as an individual, you as a family, if it's done with prudence. Would you agree with that? And how do you overcome the psychological side of this with anyone that you interact with? I mean, I imagine most of the people you interact with have a pro credit card mindset, but have you ever interacted with anyone who's kind of on the fringe about it?
Yeah, no, and you bring up a great point. And I think, credit card debt is a national crisis. I think everyone would agree on that. That's not a political statement at all. Like, it's just horrible. You know what I mean? And I hate that. And sometimes it makes me upset that I'm in some ways a part of all of that, but that doesn't keep me up at night because I understand that at the end of the day, it's a personal choice. And I've never met someone who didn't know that there was 27% interest. They knew it and they still chose it for whatever reason, and I understand there's circumstances that come up that are very challenging. And I'm not going to judge those circumstances, but it is, most people are aware of that. So I no longer try and convince people that are against credit cards to get into them. I probably at the beginning was a little green and used to do that of like, no, here's why you should do it. But now if someone, messages me and asks me to, I don't understand credit cards, I don't want to do it, I honestly just say, you know what, you do whatever you would like to do. I'm not looking to fight people on credit cards. So, and part of that is there's enough interest I get coming my way of people who already are kind of very into this that want help. And so it's easier for me to help them. And there's also an emotional thing like that I don't necessarily understand because I haven't gone through it. These people I meet who have been in deep credit card debt and left credit cards and are talking about coming back, when they see my posts, and I'm like, you've got some baggage there. Maybe it actually doesn't make sense for you, particularly because you've had this horrible experience 10 years ago. Most people, especially the business owner thing, it works just fine. And it's very easy to put on auto pay and pay it off every month. I do actually meet a decent amount of business owners who want to leverage the power of credit card rewards for their businesses, but they actually use a debit card for everything personally, which I find interesting. They just want to keep it all separate. Now, there are some concerns, right, with debit card security. That's one of the reasons people like credit cards is that they're more secure because if there's fraud, it's someone else's money, not yours. So that's something I do tell them. But yeah, I mean, it's a very real concern. So that's a great point. And I don't try and convince people because it's often pretty emotional, I found, for the people who are really against it.
And I think that's the conversation with any potential client or existing client is, hey, this is a tool that's available to you, right? And you can use this tool for a lot of benefit, or if you misuse the tool, it can lead to perhaps a lot of challenge. To expand a little bit, though, tell us when you're first meeting with a client and you've now got a basic understanding of, hey, emotionally, I'm comfortable or perhaps uncomfortable using a credit card. I do want to maximize or begin to make things more efficient with my spending here. What initial education, data discovery, what are you doing in that first initial meeting to help show someone what they could be leaving on the table before jumping straight to the ultimately final optimization answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually pretty simple, and it doesn't take too much time. Those go quickly together. So it's like you meet somebody. So my first ever business owner client, not my first ever client, but was my parents, and they're a great example. They're small business owners, and they spend in the medical space, and again, they spend about $40,000 a month on medical supplies. That's just part of the business. That's how it works. And they're using a credit card. So they open their business with the local bank. They bank with the local bank in Indiana, and they have the local bank 1% cashback card. And so it's very easy for me to go to my dad, and this is what I do all the time now to people. After they show me what they're doing, their information, I say, Dad, you're getting 1% back on every single purchase. There's a whole world of credit card points and miles and travel stuff, but you could literally just switch to a 2% card just like that and double the rewards. This is not complicated stuff. And he'd been doing that for 7 years and he never thought about it. And that's really why my dad is really my ideal client, because he loves traveling, but he's a busy guy like most of us, and he just hadn't thought about it. And I'm like, that's so simple. So Dad, this is how much money you're leaving on the table just by not having a 2% card. And again, there's more he can get from the travel side. We can talk about that. But it's really what it is hey, here's how much you're spending and what you're spending on. If we just switch to these 1 or 2 or maybe 3 cards, you could increase by 100% what you're earning. And people usually like that. They're usually pretty excited about that when they see it.
So I imagine that it's very much catered towards their spending habits. In that data collection, you're probably asking them, one, do you like to fly? Do you travel frequently? Do you prefer cashback rewards? I imagine you have some sort of intake process to better understand the client themselves. Because for me, and I always use myself as the guinea pig or as the example with clients when they ask me this question, which credit card should I have? And for better or for worse, the response is, well, make sure you're aligning the credit card reward points with where you're actually spending money.
Yeah.
Or what you like to do. Because, and I've mentioned this on multiple episodes, I hate to fly. I just had a really bad experience. It takes a lot to get me on a plane. Now, this year I've done more flying than I've done in years past. And so I'm becoming more okay with it mentally. But my wife and I, we just don't like to fly. So we really don't have a miles card. Yeah. Right? For better or for worse. So then it's okay, well, am I missing out on opportunities because I don't have a miles card? And most of what I'm doing would be cash back through American Express or, hotel points through one of the big hotel providers. And is there a better response that could be given to somebody who's asking that simple question of, okay, well, which credit cards are going to give me the greatest bang for my buck?
It's probably twofold. So the first question is, do you like travel? And if they love travel, which honestly, a lot of people do, and I'm probably biased because I only talk to people who love travel, right? So if they love travel, then there's the travel credit card route to go down. We can pause that in a second. But if they don't, I think for sure cashback makes the most sense for people. The whole argument of travel points versus cashback. So those two cards are going to earn similar amounts. Like cashback and cards and travel cards, they earn about the same percentage or point back. There's an arbitrage opportunity with points that doesn't exist with cashback. So let's say you spend $100,000 on a 2% cashback card or a 2x travel card, same thing. You end the year with either $2,000 or 200,000 points. Most people would say those are worth the same. But there are ways, which you can talk about, of how to turn 200,000 points into $5,000 at travel. So if that's possible and you like travel, obviously you should go after travel because that's awesome and that's really good value. But if you don't get on a plane and you don't want to fly to Europe or whatever, it's well, it's actually kind of irrelevant for you that you can do that because you're not going to do it. So yeah, that's a big conversation. So, and then in going deeper, I wish there was a quicker answer of what credit card should I get? But I do think, you can ask a few kind of discovery type questions and get it down to a few. But ultimately, some cards are going to be better for hotels and airlines and flexibility and all these different things. So it can be challenging. It also definitely depends on where you live. Living in Charlotte, North Carolina, an American hub versus Atlanta, a Delta hub does change a lot of things, of what spending could look like, what cards could look like. So I wish there was a quick answer, but it's usually, it depends. And the very quickest answer I'll say, if no one wants to, get on a call with me or talk to you guys or something, would be, okay, well, let's start with AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Put in your situation, put in how much you spend, what you spend on, what you're interested in, and they can give you some beginning recommendations that may or not be perfect, but it's at least better start than just kind of combing through NerdWallet on your own and feeling overwhelmed by all the options. That's often what I tell people.
To jump back to a comment that you made before is essentially point arbitrage.
Yeah.
For listeners who know that they're earning points or miles or cash back or other, but beyond, let's use your dad as an example, beyond the 1% cashback bank card that he had, for a listener who has not done any real research or hasn't had the time to do research, can you explain what point arbitrage is and where that benefit lies for the potential client?
Sure. So the benefit only lies in travel. Like you'll never get an arbitrage on like a purse or a whatever, you know what I mean? Like it has to be travel. So right off the bat, again, if you don't like travel, this is not worth your time.
But when you say travel, you mean flights.
Sorry, flights and hotels. So I would say more specifically premium cabin flights, which would be premium economy, business class, first class, and or luxury hotels. You're probably not going to see an amazing, crazy deal at like the local Holiday Inn Express, but you could see one at the Ritz-Carlton or the Park Hyatt or the Kimpton, whatever, with IHG. So what it is, it's pretty simple. Basically, the arbitrage is that you earn a bunch of points and then you redeem them for way more value than they're typically worth. So here's an example. Chase credit cards are the most popular cards on the market. Don't quote me on that, but I believe I saw some data on that. So I'm 99% sure on that. So Chase is obviously enormous, right? Chase, JP Morgan. So Chase cards, for example, the Chase Sapphire Preferred card or the Chase Ink Preferred card, they have many of them. Those cards are flexible Chase points. You know, I earn 3x points on dining and 1x on other things, and I earn a bunch of Chase points. So the arbitrage opportunity with Chase points, and this works pretty much the same with American Express, with Capital One, with Wells Fargo, with Citi, there's lots of different options, is those points have a fixed value inside of Chase's travel portal. They're usually worth about a penny. So you have 100,000 points, that's worth $1,000. That's how most people use their points, which is fine. But if you think about the math, you're like, well, that's not really actually any better than cash back. If I'm going to use points like that, I may as well just do cash back. But the arbitrage opportunity is that Chase and all these other major banks allow you to transfer your points to different airline and hotel partner programs. So for example, Chase allows you to transfer points to World of Hyatt. Okay, Hyatt Hotels, most people know Hyatt. For whatever reason, Hyatt has a really, really great program. So you can transfer Chase points over to Hyatt. I stayed at a Hyatt in February of this year in St. Kitts in the Caribbean. The cash rate for this hotel was about $1,500 a night. So extremely expensive hotel. I cannot afford that yet. The points price was only 30,000 points per night. So when you hear 30,000, you should think $300 worth of points. So that's crazy. Like that is the arbitrage. That's the spread, whatever you want to call it. If that's possible, like that's an incredible return. The reason that works is that this is just how Hyatt structures their pricing. It's not every day like that, but occasionally it is. And so the points arbitrage, in a word, is really just finding the opportunities with the airline and hotel partners your bank has access to get way, way, way outsized value. I see it pretty often with Hyatt hotels. I see it often with American Airlines. I see it often with programs like Air France. For whatever reason, some programs have really, really favorable pricing where the points price will be low and their cash price for the same exact flight or hotel, or whatever, is really high. When you can find those, that's how you could turn 100,000 points, typically $1,000 worth of points, into like $5,000+ of travel. Can't get it every day, can't get it every hotel, every flight. There's some annoyances and red tape to actually get that, but it can be done. And that's what gets people really, really excited. And that's, I would say, probably the thing that's keeping people into points versus cashback, because the potential for that is really, really exciting for a lot of people. And then once they kind of taste it and realize it, they don't go back. And that's my dad now. So I just helped him get like $13,000 worth of business class flights for only about 400,000 points. So that's $4,000 worth of points for $13,000 of flights. He's over the moon. He's never flown business class to Europe, and he's never going back to cashback. That's kind of how that works.
So maybe you can convince me and my wife to want to get on planes a little bit more if it means we're going to some of these exotic destinations.
The challenge, I think, Michael, with you is how many kids that need to also fly business class.
Yeah, exactly. Or, maybe they stay home with grandma for, a couple days while we're gone.
So, Colin, I guess my question next there is, here's the opportunity, right? If travel from a flight or hotel perspective is of any interest, arbitrage is almost always going to outweigh cashback. Now, if arbitrage is generally going to outweigh cashback, if travel in any capacity is something that I have an interest in, how day-to-day or active is the management of monitoring that point arbitrage opportunity? Because I'm sure that's where a lot of clients get kind of lost, right? I don't have the time to do this as a profession or to watch these sites day to day.
It's definitely more time consuming than just redeeming cash back, obviously, because that takes 2 seconds to just transfer some money to your account. So you want to set up a strategy. You could talk to someone like me for help with that. You can do the research yourself. You can use ChatGPT, whatever. Once you're kind of set up, and when I say set up, I mean having the right travel cards in place. Maybe it's 1 card, maybe it's 3 cards, however complicated you want to make it. Then it's kind of set it and forget it after that. So you're earning the points, but then the redeeming the points is where it can get a little bit challenging. So some people make this, they're like, I want to beyond hobby, maybe even part-time job of like looking, and they spend hours and hours doing this stuff. I don't think you have to. So 10 years ago, it was really, really hard to find these deals because you had to know all the details. Today, there's a bunch of these awesome software, website services that will do a lot of the work for you. So to name a few that people could look up, point.me. If anyone has ever searched for flights on Expedia or Google Flights, it's basically like Google Flights for points. You put in Charlotte to Rome, and you can even select, okay, I have Amex points and I have Delta Sky Miles, and you can then find that the best points options to fly from Charlotte to Rome. So it's doing all the work for you. Now, there's some cons of these, like they miss stuff. They can be annoying, or they'll show stuff that's not available occasionally, but really these programs are really solid. So there's point.me. There's another one called Roam, ROAME. There's seats.aero, a lot of these different programs, and some of them will even send you alerts. So you could maybe spend 20 minutes setting up a bunch of alerts and say, I really want to go to Rome in April, but I'm not seeing anything right now, or I'm not ready to book, or I'm a little overwhelmed. You could have these services that all, cost between $5 and $25 a month, like monitoring this stuff for you and then texting you alerts when your preferred flight pops up or something. So it's not too bad, but it can be annoying. And then I offer a service, and there's many other people like me. It's kind of a white glove just done for you. So you say, Colin, I've got 400,000 Chase points. I want to go with my wife to the Caribbean, to one of these fancy places. Can you just figure it out for me? And I do that, and I have lots of other competitors or people like me who do the same thing. So it's like, we'll go on, do all the research for you, shoot you an email and say, hey, how does this sound? You say yes, and then you pay us after we help you get it all booked. So that's something I offer. But yeah, it can be challenging to do. I do think, though, with a little bit of education, most people can kind of get the basics figured out. But there's always another level, including for me, who does this all the time, of like, I just told a client, like, hey, that's actually just too complicated. I can't help with that. Sorry. Because it just, it can get really complicated to do some of these things. So hopefully that gets some guidance there.
It does. And the follow-up question that I have there is, let's say I'm a low-spending business owner. Maybe I spend $2,000 a month, and Michael is a high-spending business owner. He spends $15,000 a month. Is there a break-even point to when the impact of bringing on a more white glove type of service or professional actually makes the difference?
Yeah. So for like the consulting side of things, so I do 2 things, right? The consulting side, which is help with credit card strategy, and then the trip booking side, which is helping you actually book a trip. They're separate things, right? It would not make sense to pay someone like me if you're only spending $2,000 a month. Typically, I say it's worth paying me once you're at about $15,000, $20,000 plus $1,000 a month. Because it's like, there's such an opportunity here that you're probably missing. For 2,000, it's like, you're just not going to earn enough points where it's worth paying me. So it's probably just kind of figure something out on your own. Or if you really want to help, just shoot me an email and I can send you some quick ideas.
That's where point.me or Roam could just like outsource that.
Or ChatGPT.
Yeah, for sure. On the redemption side, it's not really about how much you spend. It's about how many points you have. And it's also about how you value your time. Because I do believe that anyone can figure this out that's intelligent. But for some people, it's just not worth it for them. It's just too much effort to find these really good deals. But it's also, it's one thing to like get a hotel in Florida. It's another thing to get, lie flat and business class seats round trip to Europe in peak summertime. The Florida hotel is going to be a lot easier to manage than the business class seat. So it just depends on the complexity. But I typically tell people, at least on my service, for the redemption trip planning help is going to be, if you have about 300,000 points, that's probably when it makes sense to pay me, because the opportunity is you can redeem those for $3,000, or I can probably help you get at least $6,000 plus dollars. So is it to save $3,000? Are you willing to pay me $300, which is what I charge probably for something like that? And the answer is typically yes, depending on their situation.
So I have one additional follow-up question there. I continue to have them as we continue to chat.
That's
You
great.
mentioned peak summertime going to Europe. That was one of my additional questions is, do arbitrage opportunities change significantly based on season?
So yes, there's a good thing and a bad thing. So the good thing is that the arbitrage is always going to be determined by two numbers. What is the cash price and what is the points price? Hopefully the cash price is way above the points price. And what you see in peak summertime is the cash prices become almost unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like to fly business class to Europe in summer, like peak summer, because everyone wants to go to Europe then. I mean, you'll see numbers that don't even feel real. Like I've seen $10,000 round trip in business class. That's not every day. And it certainly gets lower. It depends where you're flying from. But I'm like, that is just crazy. Like, and people pay that, you know? So if you can get that flight for 150,000 points, obviously that's an incredible deal, right? It's $1,500 for the points for a $10,000 flight. So that's a good thing in the sense that your math and your numbers are really pumped up and they look really good. But on the flip side, you are going to see less availability. So airlines don't release all of their seats to be bookable with points. They usually only release a certain number of seats, especially in the premium cabins, first, business class, all that. So if let's say the Delta has a daily flight from Atlanta to London, they may only release a number of those seats to be booked with points. In peak summertime, it's much more likely that those seats are already booked and they're just gone and they're not there. So when someone says, help me find a trip, I'm going, June 17th to July 1st to London, I need business class, and they have exact dates. I'm like, I'm sorry, I may not be able to find anything. Typically, you're going to need some flexibility to make that work, at least in the premium cabins. So that can be a little challenging. So that's kind of the good side and the bad side of it. But it certainly can be done at any season. And you're going to see points have the same issues that cash bookings too. Like you want to travel December 27th to January 5th or whatever. There's plenty of hotels that are already today, the day of recording this, completely sold out for that week, whether it's cash or points. Like you truly cannot get into hotels because that's the most popular travel week of the year, especially to warm weather places. So there's certain things that you just can't fix because supply and demand is doing its thing. And that's just how it is. So it can be frustrating, but it's just life.
So there's not like, hey, everyone should go to Rome in the month of October because that's when point arbitrage is at its largest and travel arbitrage is at its largest.
Well, I would say October, the arbitrage will still be good. It may not be $10,000 crazy like price. The cash rates will come down, but there's so much more availability, I would say, for points in October and April and shoulder season that, I would actually say that would be kind of the ideal time to target. And I just think, Europe is better in October than it is in July, in my opinion. Way better. It's not 90 degrees everywhere. So that's, you do like that.
So we talked about point arbitrage up to this exact moment and have spent a lot of time there. And I think that's where a lot of the value comes from, right? Having someone like yourself or competitors who offer that white glove for both sides of the business, right? Point redemption and the other side that you're offering here. But what are some of the other hidden perks beyond the points themselves that people should be considering, right? So like as an example, I had a client recently who had the American Express Delta Sky Miles, I think is what the card is. Let me see.
Right.
So yeah, the Delta Sky Miles. And one of the big reasons why they got this card was because when they do fly throughout the course of the year, they like to have access to the lounge. Now, the annual fee for this is pretty large. And I understand that, annual fees can be okay depending on the amount of volume that you're putting on the card. If you're getting the return on investment there for that annual membership fee, right? Or the annual card fee. So we ended up downgrading that card because it just didn't make sense. They weren't traveling enough. They weren't spending enough. It wasn't really paying for itself, if you will, by way of having access to that lounge. So to bring it back and be more direct, what other perks beyond just points themselves should card holders be considering or be looking out for that you think are the biggest bang for your buck?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things. And I'd say that a lot of them are going to be primarily beneficial for people who travel a lot. If you're kind of a 1 vacation, 2 vacation a year person, in my mind, none of these premium travel cards that have annual fees over $500 a year make sense for you. I personally do not have any cards with a really high annual fee like that. It just hasn't made sense for me, but it certainly makes sense for a lot of people. So I'd say any of the cards, any of the really expensive ones you've seen out there, for the right person, they can provide huge value, like way above the annual fee. But the biggest asterisk there is could, is like, do they actually use all the benefits? So the most famous card for this, I would say, is the American Express Platinum card. It's almost $800 a year now. It's got this laundry list of credits. People joke that it's a coupon book. And I mean, you can easily get $2,500 a year of value from those credits. I know people who do that and more, but it's like, are you actually going to do that? Like, are you actually going to take the time to go and get your credits and your rebates and your free StubHub and your, Resi credit for New York City dining? There's just all these different things. I find that a lot of people don't. Now, for high spending business owners, getting one of these really expensive cards can be a no-brainer because they help you earn more points sometimes, not always. Yeah, it may not work. But I'd say the biggest things are the airline hotel perks and then status. So for example, Marriott's most expensive card, I believe it's the Brilliant card. It's a black card. That automatically gets you platinum status, I believe. I always get confused, so don't quote me on that, but I believe it's platinum, which is pretty high status. So all you have to do is just get the card and boom, you have status. Hilton's Aspire card gets you the highest level of Hilton status just by having the card. You don't have to spend any money. American Airlines, right? You get a $95 annual fee card with them and you get free check bags on every domestic trip. So if you've got a bunch of kids, that could literally be $1,000 of savings just like that for a $95 annual fee card. So there's so many little perks like that on these cards that depending on your travel habits, it totally makes sense. Lounge access, like if you lived where there was a Capital One lounge, you can get a relatively inexpensive Capital One Venture card and get unlimited access for yourself to that lounge. If you're traveling every month, it's like, yeah, totally. I mean, that's so much value. But again, people get a little bit swayed by maybe the marketing of these ultra premium cards, and they're often not worth it. So I think lounge access and then airline and or hotel status can be really helpful. But you got to look it's a very personal question, I would say.
So similar to Michael, your comment earlier in the episode where the goal is to align the type of spending that you're doing with the card that you ultimately own. Same thing when it comes to annual fee and then additional perks or rewards on top of that. So Colin, one last question for you, and it's more one-off, but let's say I do enjoy travel, but perhaps not the traditional flight and hotel in Europe. What if I'm someone who enjoys a cruise? If I enjoy trips perhaps more locally, I'm Michael, I don't love to fly. Is this an arbitrage or an efficiency that I can still build in, or is it more extravagant type of travel that's really most applicable here?
Yeah, so you can definitely use points for those kind of things. However, the arbitrage opportunity we're discussing, where you use 100,000 points and get $5,000 of travel, that's typically going to be reserved for premium cabin flights, often internationally, and then more luxury hotels. Now, that luxury hotel could be in your backyard, depending where you live. If you live in New York City, or Miami, there's lots of very, very fancy hotels there. But if you're in Indiana, like me, you're going to have to drive a long way to even get anywhere, more than $200 a night, probably. So that's just how it is. So the answer is no, there isn't a super high value arbitrage way. But this gets into a really interesting psychological point, I would say. And maybe you guys have seen this kind of thing with your clients. Cashback mathematically for what you're describing may be the better bet. But I find that people who get cash back, depending on how it comes, it just pops into your checking account. What do you use it for? You use it for school, your kid's school. You use it for the HVAC system. You use it for groceries. You don't really do anything meaningful with it. It just shows up in your account and then it just stays in there. Unless you're a super disciplined budgeter, tracker, you've got a great financial professional on your team, you're probably not even noticing it. So what I like about points is the psychological thing where it forces you to use it for what I hope would be an iconic, awesome family memory. So that can be a huge game changer, even though the math isn't actually better for using it for a cruise or using it for an Airbnb, an hour from your house in the mountains or whatever. You're going to remember that more than you're going to remember, saving $900 on your HVAC replacement or whatever. So that's a psychological, very human, very non-mathematical thing I've noticed. So that's why I say, within reason, unless you're a mega math nerd, it might still make sense to do points, even if you're not doing the kind of maybe more ostentatious, luxurious type of travel I'm discussing here. So that can be huge. And in that sense, yeah, you can use points for lots of different things. You can use it for the hotel in your backyard. You can use it for cruises. So like Chase Travel allows you to book cruises with your Chase points and things like that. So again, the math isn't there, but it certainly can be done. And it feels good to have like that extra vacation budget just sitting there that you didn't really work to get. It just hops up over the year of spending.
To give a personal example, a couple years ago, we took our 3 daughters, and we now have a little boy, but during the time, it was just the 3 girls, and we went to Disney. And we used a lot of our cashback rewards to fund a lot of the spending that we did during the day, right? You just apply it towards credits or you take the cash back out. And I've been very selective with which cards I use to where cashback is a priority since I don't like to fly. The kids do love to stay in hotels, which kids don't enjoy staying in hotels and getting on all the elevators and seeing all the cool architectural stuff inside the hotels. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. It's like going to an amusement park. And so like getting free stays through certain card providers and, being able to book with those points like you mentioned earlier on. But our grocery budget is massive. Whose family's household grocery budget is not massive? And so it's easy for me to be like, okay, well, this card gives me 6% cash back up to $6,000 a year in grocery spending. To your point, it's built into my annual budget. Why not get that free cashback reward and then, either apply it towards a family vacation for memories or whatever our Christmas spending budget is. We already have that set aside throughout the course of the year, so we can go ahead and set that aside. But clients will often forget, hey, I'm using this card for this perk and I have these setting aside there, whether it's, hey, go take a trip. Well, how are we going to pay for it? Well, don't you have points? Oh, yeah, you're right. Or, hey, I've kind of gotten a little out of hand with my spending. Okay, first stop is, what do your points look like and how much of the balance can we knock off with using that versus going to personal savings or something else, right? Let's make it more purpose-driven in essence.
And I think that's really the summary of the entire episode is taking advantage of arbitrage opportunities, point maximization can be very impactful from an experience standpoint, from a luxury standpoint. But I think the thing to focus on for all listeners is there's opportunity out there in your cash flow domain of your balance sheet day to day to just make your spending align with all of the other planning that's most important to you.
Yeah.
And Colin, it's someone like yourself who is really helping clients discover this, especially those business owners, those bigger spenders who have really just not had the time or perhaps even the knowledge that these opportunities exist. So it's marrying, hey, what does my cash flow world actually look like? What's most impactful for me, both mathematically and emotionally? And what opportunities exist out there that I just didn't know about before.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Colin, as we wrap things up, where can our listeners go to learn more about you, your business offering, your services? Where can they subscribe to newsletters? Where should they be Googling or ChatGPTing to find more on you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm on LinkedIn often. I'm there every day posting. That's kind of my main channel. So definitely check me out, Colin Stroud on LinkedIn. It's really the only social media platform I use right now. My website is gosomewhere.world. .com was unavailable. Some guy just told me I could buy it for $32,000.
It's a lot of points though, man.
Yeah,
a lot of points.
Can you arbitrage that?
No, I am not going to do that. .world is me. I do have a free newsletter that you can check out. It's on my website and LinkedIn. And then, you can see on my website, like a one-on-one consultation. And then a new thing I've actually just launched this morning is I've started a private membership community for high spending business owners. It's kind of like my highest tier special offering for anyone who is really into travel, spending a ton of money. It's going to be kind of your one-stop shop for everything you need to figure out this whole world. And a lot of it is, you can imagine, done for you by me. So that's what I'm excited about. And again, all that information is on my site. So appreciate anyone checking out my stuff. But yeah, definitely LinkedIn. You don't ever need to pay me anything. I'm sharing a bunch of stuff for free on there every day and hope to inspire a lot of people on there. So thank you guys so much for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you much for joining us. And I think you've given us a whole new lens on how to view reward points, not as much of a gimmick or a game, but as a genuine wealth optimization tool.
Exactly. Whether you're running a business or managing a household, being intentional with your spending can turn daily expenses into unforgettable experiences. To our listeners, if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, maybe even a 5-star review if you think it's worthy enough, and share it with someone who loves travel or wants to get smarter with their credit cards and, of course, the point arbitrage game itself.
And if you have questions that you'd like us to answer in a future AMA episode, head over to our site, www.genesiswealthplanning.com/AMA, and drop us a note. We'd love to discuss it on a future episode.
Until next time, spend with purpose, plan with wisdom, and live with fortitude.
Are you considering hiring a financial advisor? If so, be sure to listen to episode 1 of Financial Fortitude. In this episode, we discuss the reasons why many people choose to hire a financial advisor and highlight the key qualities you should look for in the financial professional you decide to work with.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Genesis Wealth Planning LLC, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. All scenarios and names mentioned herein are purely fictional and have been created solely for educational purposes. Any resemblance to existing situations, persons, or fictional characters is coincidental. The information presented should not be used as the basis for any specific investment advice. Michael Acosta and Brady are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS. Securities, products, and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Consolidated Planning Group, Inc. and Genesis Wealth Planning, LLC are not affiliates or subsidiaries of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Michael Acosta's California Insurance License Number 0M50974 and Brady Hemmerly's California Insurance License Number 4353077. 7237198.25, expiration 11/27/2027.